button going. There we go. All right, well, again, thanks for coming tonight. Welcome to the Independent District Commission's training on DistrictR, and thanks for joining us. Tonight, we're going to be covering the basics on how to use DistrictR and how to submit your own proposed district map to the Independent District Commission, which you'll hear me refer to as the IDC for short. Before we get too deep into the maps, though, let's take a moment to make sure that you're up to speed on the Commission's work itself. And I'm just going to show you real quick, we welcome folks in the first 5 minutes. We take about 10 minutes for the IDC background. We spend 15 minutes on defining your community, and then have a good half hour to go over our data mapping tool and DistrictR. Might take a little bit less time. Usually takes the full hour when there's more folks in the training. But if you ask as many questions as several people, then it could take about that long still. Any questions about the agenda before we keep going?
Nope.
All right, great. So the Independent District Commission was created by the voter-approved amendments to the city charter last November that were crafted by the 2020 Portland Charter Commission. The Independent District Commission, as its name suggests, is a fully independent body authorized to create the district plan for the city of Portland. The commission is responsible for prepping and adopting a district plan for dividing our city into 4 districts using criteria established in the charter. The IDC has already held 1 public hearing to engage Portlanders on adding district criteria and voted to not add any additional districting criteria to what was already laid out in the charter. And they are currently drafting proposed district maps. They're using maps submitted via DistrictR, the mapping tool that we have training on in a little bit. And once they have proposed districts, they will hold 8 public hearings in July, with 2 in each of the proposed districts before adopting the plan. They plan on releasing those draft maps in early June. They have their next meeting is a week from Wednesday, so it's on the 31st. They are slated to vote on the plan, the draft plan rather, and then release it somewhere between June 1st and June 4th. And the first district plan, once they have all those hearings and everything and vote on it, is required to be adopted no later than September 1st of 2023. The district criteria that I mentioned on the last slide that they're using to draw the districts are the following: that the districts will be contiguous and compact. That just essentially means that they won't have any districts that are in multiple pieces or, kind of sprawling out in every which way to encompass things that they specifically want. And common term you hear for that is gerrymandering. They're also supposed to use existing geographic or political boundaries. Commissioners take into account geographic boundaries like the Willamette River and political boundaries like voter districts. They're not supposed to divide communities of common interest. And example that we use there is the Jade District, group of voters that have a specific, political thing in common with each other. They must be connected by transportation links, and that's any transportation link, roads, sidewalks, public transit. Essentially, people need to be able to get around in their district and be of equal population. The districts have to be within 10% deviation between the smallest and largest district. Puts them at roughly 163,000 people per district. And, the 10% is that, you obviously can't make districts that are exactly the same or they would be weird shaped. But as long as they're the smallest district isn't 10% smaller than the largest district out of the 4. Districts may not be drawn for the purpose of diluting the voting strength of any language or ethnic minority group. And districts may not be drawn for the purpose of favoring any political party. And in this case, since it is a nonpartisan election for city council, it would be an existing politician that it has a district drawn so they could run for re-election and be easily reelected. Keeping in mind that you can't have all of these absolutely perfect. There's kind of a push and a pull for some of them as they relate to each other. Best example would be the population is one that is, they have to fall within that 10%. But if you were to take all of the land or all of the voters in Portland and people in Portland to the west of the Willamette River, it wouldn't actually be large enough on its own to form one of those equal population districts. So they have to, flex a little bit here and there with these when they contradict each other. Any questions about what they've done so far and what's slated to come up in the next months and or the district criteria they're using?
No, that's really clear. Thank you.
So the community engagement work group. The IDC established a community engagement work group composed of 4 and now 5 commissioners that focuses on outreach and engagement to Portlanders. They've established 4 key questions to ask to define community. And before we get too far into drawing the maps, we want to take a look at those questions. Not only are they great because, maps can only tell so much of a story when people draw a map and submit it. As far as feedback to the IDC, it gives them a little bit more, story behind the map, so to speak. They're a great way to get you into the right mindset to draw your own districts as you think about what is important about your community. And the questions are, how would you define your community in Portland? And there can be more than one. What physical places are the most important to the community? Or another way of saying that would just be, where does this community gather? What geographic and physical boundaries are important to this community? And what are the physical boundaries of the community? And what should the commission know about your community or other communities in Portland when considering where to draw the district boundaries? And we actually have these up online, and I'll show you where you can access them. So you can think about them now. I highly encourage you to answer these questions when you get a spare minute, after the training or, sometime later tonight, tomorrow, whenever. But they are having that meeting next week, and it would be great to get the word in earlier rather than later. We report out on all the information we gather in these surveys to the commissioners. So we have a mapping consultant that takes all of the maps that people submit and summarizes them into major trends within those maps. And we do the same with these questions. And also submit them all, give them all of the raw data from the answers themselves. So it kind of allows them to know what's important about community to folks in Portland. And this is actually a dual screen, 2 different screens you'll see on the Independent District Commission website, and that's just portland.gov/transition/district commission. And if you go to just the /transition, that is all of the charter reform bodies, or so to speak. The whole transition plan is housed in that /transition, and the district commission specific stuff is obviously on the district commission page. And I'm going to drop that into the chat for you right now, just so you can have it handy if you want to follow along at home. But so on the left is the homepage, so to speak, for the Independent District Commission. And you can see that there's a little spot that you can click on that says draw and submit a district map. When you go to that, it gives you several options. If you want to do the survey, it's option 2, and once you click on draw and submit a district map, it takes you to the page that's on the right. Option 2 is that online survey I was just talking about. Option 1 is the data sets and sample maps. It's a map of Portland tool where you can overlay all sorts of different data points onto a map of Portland to see where people live, where parks are, where fire departments are. And you'll see when we jump into the screen itself, the kind of endless data that is on there. And you can also view the current maps that the commissioners themselves are considering, both ones that they submitted, drew and submitted themselves for discussion with the larger group of district commissioners, and then the ones they've kind of whittled it down to. There's a lot of agreement with a lot of the districts, but there are some areas on certain spots of the map where there's debate over where the district line should fall. And then the third option is draw and submit your own district map, and that's using that. When you click on that one, that's where you get to the DistrictR mapping tool itself. This is what the screen looks like for the spatial data mapping tool. And I'm going to run through some of the stuff on it really quick here. I'm going to screen share in a few minutes once we get through the training itself and show you hands-on with this option as well as the DistrictR map. But and just starting in the upper left-hand corner, it's got similar functions to Google Maps. For instance, there's a zoom to entire city button where it takes you back to this exact screen you're seeing as far as how zoomed in or out you are. And then the plus and the minus, you can toggle between aerial imagery and just your more traditional drawn map. Below that, there's a button to click to generate a screenshot. That way you can save it as onto your computer, as well as a button to click to share on social media platforms. Back to the upper right corner, there's a search bar, so you can search for any address or certain things on the map of Portland. The little arrows is what opens and closes your legend to show you what the different colors on the map mean. You can see that the only thing we have visible now is the city of Portland boundary, which is reflected in the legend, and the legend gets more to it the more layers of data you open. And then the little kind of accordion looking square button there is what opens and closes the data layer tool. And you can see that there's an open eye icon and a eye with a line through it. The open eye is what allows you to see that data. The city of Portland boundary has the open eye. Eye with a line is closed eye, so to speak, so you can't see all of the other things. And like I said, I will we'll be looking at that screen in a moment, so you can check it out. And then when you click on option 3, it takes you to this page. And you can see highlighted by the yellow circle down there, you can click on either Portland for multi-member districts or Portland identify a community. The for multi-member districts is a mapping tool that allows you to draw exactly that, your four proposed districts for Portland. You can also just highlight a community that is very important to you that you wouldn't like to see split between districts and submit that to commissioners as well. And you have any questions before I jump into the map stuff itself?
Not yet.
Okay, great. I'm going to stop screen sharing for 1 moment and then start screen sharing a different screen. Close that. Oh, I should look at that though. Okay. Fortunately, nobody came in. All right, let's see. What screen do we want to share? Sure, I share the right one with you. There it is. Okay, can you see the Independent District Commission screen okay?
Yes, I can. And
Okay.
I actually do have one question. I feel a little silly, but what is this weird triangle that's the island inside of the city of Portland boundaries that's not city of Portland? Is it just like federal because of the interstates there?
Yeah, I think that's what that is. It might be like an independent township over there too that was never annexed, but let's see. Yeah, I think that's where the highway junction is. So there's nobody lives there, so nobody votes there. Great question though. I saw that on there too, and I should look into that actually.
You know what? I actually have a friend who lives right across the street from this section, so I'm going to ask her. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, Independent District Commission, this is our website. I encourage you to check out some other parts of it. There's the drawn submitted district map. Sorry that all of these alerts are popping up, if you can see those. Commissioners are emailing me. You can submit public comments as well, which I encourage folks to do. We've had people that have drawn the maps and then submitted a public comment and linked their map in the public comment, which is great because the way I submit these reports to our commissioners is electronically, so they'll be able to click on it themselves and check it out. And you can then provide a little nuance behind your map. You can sign up for public testimony. There's a page of key documents and sign up for email updates as well. And we're currently in the process of scheduling our next community listening session that will happen after the draft maps are released. So we would be clicking on Drawn Submitted District Map. And it brings up this page with all of the options. So we're going to look at, excuse me, view data sets and sample maps first. And it takes a second to load because there is a lot of information in this. It's taking its time. All right, you can see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, like I said, zoom buttons, a lot like your Google Maps. The closer you get, the more detail you get. If you ever find yourself lost in Portland and don't know where you are, you can click on the home button and it will take you quickly to the zoomed out version. This is what changes between the aerial data and the regular map. I'm going to leave it on the regular map just because it's a little easier to work with for this purpose. So to create a screenshot, actually I'm going to zoom in a little bit though, just because it seems kind of far away. You can choose whether you want legend in there, the data layers, whether you want a horizontal or vertical screenshot, and then you highlight the area you want a screenshot of, and it takes it for you. You enter your title in there, and you can download the image, and then that image is yours. Same thing goes for the social media. It will, you can copy a link so you can link it, or click on these to show folks what's on your screen. Up here, like I said, is a search bar. You can find an address or place if you want to find your house or somebody else's house, where exactly it falls in the map. This is the legend. You can see that the city of Portland boundary is highlighted in black. And then this is where all of the data is. And like I said, you need to have the eye open in order to see it. So when you put the line through it, that border for Portland disappears. And there's lots of subcategories for all of this data. And I want to show you, say you're several things down here and you're like, oh, I want to see where all of my Portland parks are. And you open the eye and you notice, hey, where are all of my parks? Whenever you have an open eye, you have to make sure that all of the subcategories it's a part of are also open. So I didn't have the city of Portland open, and I didn't have supplemental data open. But once I get them all, the supplemental that the city of Portland and the parks are under, boom, there are all the parks. You'll see when you reopen the legend that we have Portland parks are in green. And then the Central City Plan District as part of the Portland Parks data is also there. You can zoom in and find some of your favorite parks. And you can see that even just this one that's important to a lot of folks is the neighborhood boundaries. You can draw those all on there as well. But just lots and lots of data in each of these categories. So this is more of Portland city-based data stuff. There's a Multnomah County tab. that will show you where your Multnomah 2020 commissioner districts are. Oregon Secretary of State has voter turnout information, as well as the Senate and House and Congress districts. And then miscellaneous. And you can kind of tool through these yourself and see what type of data there is under those ones. Census Bureau is where there's a lot of data. The type of stuff you would expect to see reported out in a census, like renter-occupied households that are housing cost burden based on the housing cost as percentage of household income in the past 12 months. Owner-occupied houses, et cetera, et cetera. And then districts has a couple of cool things. These are maps. So IDC submissions are ones that the commissioners on the Independent District Commission drew themselves as like a starting point for discussion. And then sample maps, as I mentioned earlier in the training, that our mapping consultant takes all of the maps that are submitted and looks for trends and presents them in sample maps where it kind of combines similar trends in those maps and presents them at each of the meetings. And these are the ones that have been presented at the meetings. So these later ones are the ones that have a lot of the talk about them right now. And I did the exact thing I told you to watch out for, where I didn't open all of the eyes. I reclosed that. So I'll zoom back out so you can see. Oh, I left my Multnomah County. Close that eye so we don't have to look at the commissioner districts. So here's one example of a map of 4 districts that they have been discussing. And some of these changes result from the discussions they had and debates around where different commissioners want to, their thoughts on where some of these district lines should fall. And just for sake of reference, if you haven't been, attending all of the meetings that they've been holding, a couple of the key areas of debate right now for the commission are the line for the West Side district. There's some debate over, they passed a motion that they would stop considering any district maps that segmented the west side, west of the Willamette, into multiple districts, as well as another motion that said there will be an East Portland district and it can't be segmented east of 205. So, but the big areas of debate are, where does this West Side district cross the river? Some folks are interested in the central city. Some folks are interested in more of a Sellwood, Eastmoreland area. Some folks have brought up the possibility of St. John's. Another one is the line between this district and this district, so the East Side district. And because of the population concerns, you can't have a district that has Park Rose, Lentz, Montevilla, and all of the Jade district in it, which are things that we have heard public comment on across the board. So figuring out the best compromise for that is something that they're considering. Any questions about this mapping tool before I jump into the district one where you can actually draw your maps?
No, I do want to clarify, when you're saying the maps that the commissioners have recommended, you're talking about the districting commission, not anyone who's holding public office, correct?
Correct.
Cool.
And it is technically a public office, despite them being appointed to the position. It is an independent district commission. So if they get 9 people to vote on this map, it's the map.
Okay. Yeah, I should have said elected office, not public.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cool.
But yes, it is the independent district commissioners maps. And these are the ones where they take all the public feedback for the commissioners to talk about. And it's kind of the result, the later maps are a little bit of a combination of things the commissioners discussed as well as things the public is still submitting. Any other questions before I stop this?
Nope.
Great. I'm going to go back one screen to our options. It's always nice to have options. So again, just when you get a moment, check out that online survey, fill it out. It takes, I think the average time it takes people to fill it out is 8 or 9 minutes or something like that. All right. And so option 3 is draw and submit your own district map. And this is the screen you saw before. And I want to show you, so there's the 4 multi-member districts tool and then the identifying one. The big difference between those two is that the 4 districts tool has 4 colors to color in, and the identify community has 1 color to color in, which will make more sense once we jump in there. And if you scroll below those 2 buttons, that's where our public gallery is. And you can see these are all of the maps that people have submitted to us. And you just load more plans if you want to see more and more maps. The order that they're displayed in is reverse chronological order. So the most recent one is the first one, and then working backwards in time. And interestingly, this map at the top, for instance, is one that after the first time they were presented with trend maps, commissioners passed a motion to not consider maps that have horizontal districts that stretch from one side of Portland to the other, nor do they want to have vertical districts where the north side of each district touches the north border of Portland and the south side touches the south border. So nice of this person to make a funny joke, but they probably won't do that.
Are the reasons behind any of these motions listed in like meeting notes online or anything?
Yeah, if you go to the events page on the IDC page, you can both see all upcoming events, but you can click on a tab that says past events, and it'll have all of the past meetings. When you look in those individual meetings, you can watch a recording of the meeting in its entirety, as well as view the meeting minutes, the public comment reports that they that the commissioners reviewed before each one that had all the public comments, and then any presentations, slide decks, so to speak, that were in those meetings as well.
Right on, thanks.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and click on the purple one just because, like I said, they're very similar in nature, but this one has the 4 colors, so I might as well show you. So this has similar zoom functions over here. Get more detail the closer you get. There's some tools up at the top here that you can choose between. The hand is what just moves the districts around, or sorry, moves the whole map around. The brush is how you paint. And when you click on the brush, you get a little bit more options. The color is what decides which district you're coloring in. So whichever color is currently round is the one that you're coloring in, and then square is the ones that you're not. You can adjust the brush size for finer or larger brush. You can click on this little box to show the precincts, but also paint by precinct. So you can just make a map of city districts that are made out of Multnomah County voter precincts themselves. And then I'll take that away. Once you decide you're like, oh, I'm going to start in here, and you can just start coloring. If you look at the population balance, you can see that the more I color, the more that goes up. And that is just keeping a running tally of all of the census blocks that you've colored in, so you know how close you're getting to that population requirement. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, it says ideal 163, 125. That is, the ideal size, and it shows you how close you're getting to that with the line. Let's say, color in a bunch of this. Oops, that is not a very compact district. Say I get close to my 163. Great, good. If you want to color in a new district, unless you click on this lock already drawn districts, you will overwrite anything. So if you just want to willy-nilly color along the edges and not have to worry about it, you can do it that way. Otherwise, if you didn't have this button on, it would overwrite whatever you had colored already. You can also see, if you scroll down here, that it tells you how much of the population is unassigned, as well as the max population deviation. Now, obviously, this isn't hitting our 10% because it's the deviation between, the smallest district being 66 and the largest being 161. And then this will just highlight any unassigned districts for you. Because census blocks can get pretty small and have less than 100 people in them, so you miss them sometimes. Oops, but I colored it yellow in the center. It's not the way to do it. So that's everything under the paintbrush. I'm going to get rid of those red lines because they're a lot to look at. It's a little more handy when you just have a few little dots here and there. Let's see. So yeah, the erase button, erases anything that you've colored. And then this magnifying lens will actually allow you to look at the census blocks and see a breakdown of the population, which is pretty cool, if you ask me. And you can change the tooltip data here. It's population and voting age population. Obviously, voting age population is lower. And the racial and ethnic makeups of those voter age populations also vary percentage-wise. So that is those. You can also look at some data layers on here. You can, if you want to take your painted districts away for a second, you can. You also have the option of placing numbers on them. We put the neighborhood organizations in here just because we've received a decent amount of public comment about folks being concerned about keeping their neighborhood, Montevilla, in my case, whatever neighborhood you live in, as one district. And school districts has also been important to folks. And this is the full school district. So this shows PPS, Park Rose, et cetera, not necessarily the school zones. And then you can also look at voter precinct boundaries.
What are those precinct boundaries units of? That's like for wide.
Are they what?
I guess I'm wondering what seats those are for.
So that is just how Multnomah County breaks up their different voting precincts, so to speak.
So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with state legislature boundaries?
They will line up with certain political boundaries, yes.
Okay.
Best with the county. I think I can't speak to all of them, but I know that a lot of them line up with, state senator boundaries, as well as statewide offices like Congress and Senate. They try to make them match, make their jobs a little easier. And they're not equal population, though. And you can also look at population, and this is where it comes in handy to turn off your painted districts. can look at population by race. You can break it out however you like. You can notice the maps get a lot darker when you click on white populations. But that's true for, and you also have the option of displaying that in either shaded region or size circles if you're more of a size circle map type of person. And then evaluation will show you how your districts break down that you've already drawn. And since I've only drawn 2, we only have data for 2, but you can choose whatever you want to compare, and it will break it down for you here, and does the same thing for voting age population by race. And that is, and there's some quick links to some different places that somebody ended up on the DistrictR homepage and was in Washington, D.C. looking at their map by accidentally clicking on that, though, so be careful with it. And that is, so that's all of the DistrictR tools. One thing I do also want to show you, coming back to this public gallery, is you can click on any of these maps, and if you like the look of one of these maps in the public gallery, you can actually edit it yourself and then submit it as your own and tweak it to the places that you like. If you're not a huge fan of meeting at the roundabout. Oh, I think that meets at the Joan of Arc statue. Possibly, maybe not. Might be the wrong roundabout, but you can hop in your brush tool. You're like, oh wow, this is not, this isn't really a good example to start with, to be honest. It's a not very serious map, and not everything's colored in, you can see. But that
someone was being cutesy.
Yeah, we've had some much more clever ones than this. There was a map submitted that was called Joan of Arc that the 4 districts met at the Joan of Arc statue at Chavez and Gleason. We had one that looked like a sunset, but most important, or the coolest thing about the sunset, was that the population was balanced. It was like 2% deviation. They weren't contiguous and they weren't compact, but it was a nice sunset. We also got a Portland flag, which was lovely. But that being said, so you're like, oh wait, this is way too low. I'm gonna have to add some of these people here, and you can just start drawing on this person's map and then save it as your own. And when you want to save, you click on save. Oh, there we go. I was like, oops, did I do this wrong? You can copy. You have a URL that is now yours, and you can share it to the public gallery if you like as well. And you just need to give it a name. And you can also save it as a work in progress if you like. If you're deep into map drawing but don't want to give up but are interrupted by the world around you. And so that's all of the mapping stuff. Like I said, went a little bit quicker since it was just you and I, but do you have any questions?
I don't think so. This is a really impressive tool, very powerful data, and seems like pretty slick user interface. I'm a data and map geek, so this is right in my wheelhouse.
Same, and I'm right there with you. It's just an amazing thing. As somebody that's worked a lot with like Van for voting stuff, this is just blows my mind, and I love telling people about it. I just get excited because it's so cool.
Absolutely. Is DistrictR just like always out there and available? Like, is it an open source tool people can use for other purposes too?
So they are a company, like, I think that it's used in a lot of redistricting processes, and they do a similar type of thing for other places that are going through redistricting. It's a little different for us since we are districting, since Portland hasn't had districts. So but it doesn't change their work at all. They just need to, make a map function thing. But in that, if you go back to this screen, you can learn more about DistrictR itself on their homepage.
Okay.
And you can see that they have the about redistricting thing there, but we're districting, which is something that I like to, when bogged down in work, I pause and remember to myself, like, wow, this is super cool. We are districting because there's never been districts, and this is historic.
Yeah.
People are going to be represented. But
it's exciting times.
Yeah, it's a super cool map function. I need to check with the city itself for how long this will be around for, because a lot of people want to keep using it after the districts are set in September, just because it's a great data source. It obviously won't be updated. This has the 2020 census data loaded into it. So the next time there's a census, it wouldn't be up. I guess it would be a while, but it also has the yearly mini census that's done as well, the ACS that informs a lot of the data points as well. But speaking of, that is another question that comes up a lot. Is this happening again ever? And the answer is yes. Once these districts are drawn and approved, this same process with the election of the Independent District Commission and them drawing the maps again will happen in every year that ends in a 1. So they are working off of the most recent census data.
Right on.
Yeah. Any other questions before I send you off into the night to do your survey and draw some maps?
I don't think so. This has been really helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming tonight, Bethany. It warms my heart when people are civically engaged, and I appreciate you taking the time. We're all busy folks, and when people want to learn about drawing maps, it warms my heart, like I said.
Well, like I said, this is totally something I geek out on. So thank you very much for hosting the training and making all of this information available for people to weigh in on.
And if you want to create a map and email it with any sort of, it's another one of the options you'll see, draw your own map and tell us why. You would just do the map submission, and then you can email District Commission at portlandoregon.gov. And just be sure to reference your map number in there and tell us why you did it. And then, of course, be sure to fill out the survey. Once we encourage you to leave more public comment once the draft plan is out there. We expect, we've gotten a decent amount of public comment, but we expect a lot more to come in once there's something for folks to critique, so to speak, instead of to create. And so keep an eye out for all those public hearings in July.
Okay, so the timeline is they have the draft plan, there's more comment, and then after that, in theory, they pick a final and publish. There's not a second round of comment with a second draft.
So yes. So what happens is they have 30, so they release their draft plan on most likely June 1st. They have until the 4th because there's supposed to be a 30-day period before the public hearings for public comment to be taken, and then a 30-day period after the hearings for public comment to be taken. And I have to say that the Independent District Commission is like, engagement with the community is their top priority. That's why there's the work group. And they have just been listening to every bit of data that comes in from members of the community and getting out there themselves and talking to community stakeholders and getting feedback from them and what, different nonprofit groups and whatnot have and community groups all over the city are, their members are saying. So they are definitely listening. So anything you say at that public hearing, if you attend a public hearing and talk about the maps, they'll hear it and are still taking public comment for those 30 days after the public hearings too, while they are, they're going to leave those public hearings and possibly rework the maps. They're happy with where they're at. They can still put that forward as, their plan. It should also be noted that they can release as many maps for a proposal as they like. There's no cap for the number of maps. they don't want to release too many because we have to have that, 2 in each proposed district. And if they don't all necessarily overlie each other enough that we could do that, we would have to have more hearings. But they will definitely listen. So keep submitting comments. And that's what that was the point I was making. They could release as many maps as they like. They probably won't release just 1 map, but they probably won't release more than 3 maps, the way the discussions have been shaking out so far.
Sounds good. I'll stay tuned.
All right. Well, thanks, Bethany, and you have a great night.
You too, Adam. Thanks.
Bye. Bye.